Great. So hello everyone, and welcome to my Yoga for Depression workshop. Let's see, we've got a couple more people joining. Just gonna let them in. Great. And this is gonna be a very low-key affair, so you don't have to worry, we're not gonna be doing anything too crazy. But I'm gonna start by exploring some of the science behind why we become depressed. And then we're going to explore the style of yoga that I believe is the best for helping you when you get into this kind of shutdown state in your body. And then we're gonna do a flow. So we're actually gonna get up and do the flow. I'm gonna teach a little yoga flow. It'd be great if you guys all want to join me in doing that. But it's also just about learning, like, how do you set up a yoga flow that will actually help you if you're feeling like this, because I never knew even how to start. I knew that yoga was good for my mental health. I didn't really know how to start when I was getting started with yoga. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is the nervous system and how it aligns with depression. So all of this stuff is very personal to me because I had to kind of figure it out myself when I was having some issues with my mental health over the years. And the first thing is that we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we rest and we digest and we just are calm and rested. And then we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is when we're activated and we are really in a state of fight or flight, in which our bodies are saying, this is not great, I don't know what to do. And the thing is that going back and forth between these two states is actually really normal and useful for our bodies. We don't want to be in rest all the time, because when we're in the sympathetic state, we're able to get things done, we're able to be really focused, we're able to get ourselves out of danger. But the issue is that if we get stuck in our sympathetic nervous system for too long, our bodies are overwhelmed because it's a lot of stimulation, it's a lot of pressure, because your body is literally rerouting its energy from a lot of important functions in your body, so it can just take care of what's absolutely necessary in that moment. And that's not supposed to go on for days and days, or months and months and months, over years and years, which can often happen to some people, or at least for me, it's happened where I've gotten into this stuck state for like months or even a year-ish of time. And it can kind of end up feeling like you're in this kind of fog state. You're in like a foggy state. You're not motivated to do anything. You're your mood is extremely low, and you have absolutely no motivation to do anything, including like seeing people. And an interesting bit of science here about this is we have a nerve in our body called the vagus nerve, and it has two different parts. There's the dorsal vagal on the back and the ventral vagal, which is the front. And the dorsal vagal response in this nerve is very primitive. And you see it in the wild when there's animals being chased by predators. When they realize that it's too much, they've been overwhelmed, they are going to die, there's literally nothing they can do. That's when they go into this freeze response where they go like floppy. And the response that we have in depression is very similar to this. Our body says, I don't know what to do. There is no way to turn. I see no way out of this problem. And you might see, if you've ever experienced depression, you'll know that depression, in most cases, you don't see a future for yourself. You don't see what could happen. You only see the past and what went wrong, and you feel like there's absolutely no way forward, which is why you feel no motivation to do anything. And of course, this feels terrible. So that's why we're doing this workshop today, because we want to learn how to get out of that state. So the thing about it is that the ventral vagal response is the good response in the vagus nerve. And this is what we're trying to move from. We're trying to move from this shutdown state to the ventral vagal state in our vagus nerve. And if you've ever jumped into really cold water, you might have noticed that when you come out of the water, you are like really awake and really alert. I would say that sensation for me is kind of like the opposite of depression, which is why I actually like jumping into cold water sometimes. And there's lots of other ways you can get from this dorsal vagal shutdown state into the ventral vagal state. And the cold water plunge is one of them. You can even do this in your shower. However, I don't know about you, but sometimes that's really hard to motivate yourself to do, especially when you're not feeling great. You're not going to want to jump into a cold shower. But there's other ways to do so. So moving the body, activating the body, and getting in touch with your own power in the body, I find is a hugely amazing way to get out of this state. So that's going to lead us into our next part of our workshop today, which is the style of yoga that I recommend for depression and getting out of this shutdown state and into our active, social, happy state, which we all want to be in. So the style of yoga that I teach for this is Ashtanga yoga. And Ashtanga yoga is a set sequence of poses that you practice over and over again. On first glance, when I first learned about the style of yoga, I was like, why would anybody do that? That sounds really boring because you're doing like the same thing over and over again. But the thing about it is that you learn how to come back again and again in a ritualistic manner. And you notice yourself getting better at this. You notice yourself improving in the poses, and you also are activating the body, because Ashtanga yoga is a very active style of yoga. It's not a style of yoga where we're just laying down and relaxing. We're actually activating our body. And actually some of the poses are very kind of harder. For me, when I first started Ashtanga yoga, I was like, I don't know how to do this. This is so hard. But actually the challenge of it is part of why it's so effective. You realize, wow, I'm able to do hard things. I'm able to feel good in my body. Even if I'm not perfect at doing this, it feels good. I feel great. And afterwards, you feel this sense of accomplishment of having done the thing that you told yourself you were going to do. And it's great. The one thing I'll say is that if you're new at it, you don't have to do the full Ashtanga, which we're not going to do that today. I'm just going to give you some tools from Ashtanga that you can take home. And everyone here as well, I'm going to be sending through some tools and tips from this so you can do it at home. And then you don't have to remember everything or watch this entire thing again. So you'll be able to do it a bit easier. So that's the next thing is Ashtanga and activating yoga, like powerful physical yoga can take you out of this state of shutdown and into a state of activation and awareness. So it takes you into that ventral vagal state. But the other part that I wanted to mention here is that it's not just about the physical body. Depression is also about what our minds are doing in our emotional state and our thoughts. So that's the other reason why depression is so effective for yoga, so effective for depression, because the definition of yoga is actually to stop the fluctuations of our mind. Which a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people don't know that yoga is actually, the definition is to stop the fluctuations of our mind. And if you've ever had depression, if you've been going through depression, you know that a big part of it is ruminative thoughts. Your thoughts are swirling around about something, like lots of things maybe, but they're very repetitive. They're like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I'm so lazy. I can't believe I'm not getting out of bed. I can't believe I'm not doing what I should be doing. Why are you not doing what you should be doing? Oh my gosh, you suck, that kind of thing. It can be a lot more complicated than that, but it's not very nice to be in your head when you're like that. And that's often why your body is like, you get to that state for a reason, but once you're in that state, it's hard to get out of it because you feel this shame inside of you in which you don't like yourself. You're not being kind to yourself in your head. So another part of this, why yoga is so effective, is we're noticing our thoughts. We're developing what's called interoception, which is awareness of our internal landscape. And of course, we can't just stop the fluctuations of our mind instantly. That's like why yoga is a practice. But what we're doing is we're noticing the thoughts, and we can come to those thoughts with empathy and not with judgment. So that's why in our little practice we're gonna do today, we're gonna do some empathetic noticing of our thoughts and emotions, which can be quite strange at first. You might be like, what are we doing? But actually it's really good and really helpful. So I don't want to go on for too long, but I'm going to be sending out a little PDF booklet that's going to outline all of this, so you'll be able to remember it easier, because it can be a bit hard to remember. I learned all the science of this from a really amazing teacher named Kylie Harris here in Auckland. She was teaching about it during lockdown and we were all very shut down. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. But we're gonna come to our practice portion of the class. So if you have a mat, you can grab the mat. You can also just watch me do it if you like, but it is more fun if you take part. So let me just see if I can move this over. Let's see, okay. So we're going to, I'm just gonna go here and let's see, so how do I do this? Okay, that's fine. So we're gonna find our place on our mat, and we're gonna start with our little guided meditation. And from here, we're gonna do some poses. So, and yeah, so this first part can be a little bit like, whoa, what is she doing? This is weird. But I actually was introduced to this guided meditation by the therapist I had during lockdown. And she was amazing. And she introduced it to me. And basically, what we're gonna be doing is noticing our emotions and empathizing with them. And so if you have a pillow, you can sit on it, but you don't have to. And you can just close down your eyes and just find a comfy seat. And if you've never meditated before, it's totally okay if your mind starts to get really loud. But what you're trying to do here is just slow down your breath and just notice all the sensations in your body. So if you feel any sort of tension in your belly and your shoulders, you can just relax them away from your head. And I want you to tune inward to the room around you, the sounds in the room around you, and also to the sensation of your breath coming in and out. When we meditate, we're not trying to clear our mind of all our thoughts, which is a common misconception. We're just trying to be here with our thoughts, so we're noticing them. So perhaps noticing what's coming up as you slow down the breath and you breathe deeply. And at this point, I like to take one hand to my belly, one hand to my heart. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but just finding a comfy spot for your hands. And what I want you to do here is notice a thought or like a type of emotion that's been quite dominant for you lately. So it can be something that you've been feeling right now, or something that you've just been struggling with a bit. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna, in your mind, you're gonna imagine that this emotion that you've been struggling with has arrived at your front door, and you're opening the door and you're seeing this emotion just standing at your doorstep. And I want you to greet it in your mind. You're gonna say, hello, blank. So it might be, hello, anxiety, hello, depression, hello, burnout, shame, frustration. Whatever it is that you've been going through lately, you just greet it. Say, hello, burnout. And you're gonna say, hello, burnout. It makes perfect sense that you would be here, given what I'm going through. So I really want you to say that deeply inside of you and say, it makes perfect sense that you would be here, given what I'm going through. Because it always does. It always makes a lot of sense, these emotions that we feel, why they're here. We can judge ourselves for them, but actually it makes sense that they're here. And we're just the human being experiencing them. So you can say again, it makes perfect sense that you would be here given what I'm going through. And just take a few cycles of breath here just to notice that awareness, notice that you're fully aware and validating that it makes sense that this emotion would be arriving here at my doorstep today. And our next thing we're going to say here in our meditation, we're going to say to our emotion, it makes perfect sense that you would be here given my life experiences. So now you're just going a bit further back. You're saying, it makes perfect sense that you'd be here given my life experiences. And now, this part can be a little bit more difficult, but you're going to say, it makes sense you're here, but it's time for you to go. And you can just let it go, let it float away. And it might be hard to do that, but that's okay. Just bring your awareness back to your breathing and back to the sensation of your body on the ground. And just relaxing your shoulders away from your head. And just slowing down the breath. Slowly opening our eyes, coming back into the room around us, just feeling a newfound, awareness that we have our own back here. We're not against ourselves. We're not bullying ourselves today. So we're going to take ourselves into our movement section. So we're going to take our hands to the mat in a tabletop position. So take your hips over your knees and your shoulders over your wrists. We're going to flow through some cat-cows first. So take your belly button closer to the mat and just reach your chest upward. So this is called a cow pose. And on your exhale, find cat pose by arching your back and gazing to your knees. This isn't part of the Ashtanga part. We're just warming up our body a little bit. So waking up through our body. And as yoga is the fluctuations, stopping the fluctuations of our mind, it can be quite hard to do that just from sitting right away. So actually, these poses we practice are so we can open our body, clear our mind, and tune into our breath with our movement. So try to breathe in as you lift and exhale as you lower. We're trying to find a moving meditation where we find a linking of mind and body. And this is another way that yoga is so helpful for meditative, for ruminative thoughts in our depression symptoms. Is we're taking our awareness outside of our mind and we're moving it into our physical body. On your next exhale, tuck your toes and lift your tailbone high to the sky. And this is called downward facing dog. And in downward facing dog, we want our feet to be at hip width distance apart. We want each of our finger pads to push into the ground. And you can bend your knees a little bit. What we're trying to do here is have a long spine from the crown of our head to our tailbone. So try pulling your shoulders away from your head and really feel your arms activating as you push the earth away. Take a big breath in and out. Really feeling the power in your arms and walking the feet towards the hands. Rolling up to standing, extended mountain, your hands up to the sky, and exhale, hands to heart. So arriving in our Tadasana at the front of our mat, we're just standing. Feel the sensation of your feet on the ground. We're going to practice the first part of our Ashtanga sequence, which is a sun salutation A. So inhale, extended mountain gaze up. Exhale, folding forward, bending into the knees a little bit so we can come to the ground. And inhale, find halfway lift, straightening your legs, pushing your hands into your shins, finding a flat back and tucking your chin in towards your chest. So you should feel a bit of a stretch in the backs of your knees and your hamstrings. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, extended mountain pose. Hands to heart center. Tying this movement with our breath, we're warming up first. So inhale, extended mountain. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Ground the hands and step back to high plank. In high plank, we find a long line from the crown of our head to our heels. If your bum is up, try to lower it. And if your bum is lower, try to lift it up. So we want to kind of feel our core activate, our abs activate. And on your next exhale, lower knees, chest, and chin to the ground. If this feels really weird in your body, you can lower all the way to your belly. And inhale up to baby cobra. So push the tops of your feet down into the ground and lift into your chest. So you're finding a bit of a lift into your chest and using your back muscles. You don't have to even use your hands here. We're trying to really open into our chest. And exhale, downward facing dog. Tuck the toes, lift the hips high to the sky. So we come back to downward dog. Take a big breath in. And sigh it out. Lock your eyes at the spot between your big toes at the back of the mat. In yoga, we use what's called a dristi for our eye gaze, and this helps us to stay aligned in the pose. Gaze to the front of your mat, step left and then right, rolling up, extended mountain pose. Hands to heart. So you've practiced a sun salutation A. So we really want to try to bring our breath into this time. So inhale, extended mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Ground the hands, step back, high plank. Exhale, knees, chest, and chin to the ground or belly to the earth. And inhale, coming into baby cobra, push the tops of your feet and peel your chest up as you gaze to the sky. Downward facing dog, pull back. And try to tune into your breath. Try to make your breath have a nice sound as you breathe in and out through your nose, kind of like an ocean wave. This will help you focus on your breath as a point of focus throughout your practice. So this will help you get out of your mind again and into your body, noticing all the sensations in the body, noticing how your breath feels. Gaze to the front of your mat, step your left and then your right to the front of your mat. You can roll up through your spine. We're now going to try out a sun salutation B, which is the second part in the Ashtanga sequence. So we're going to take our feet together and we're going to sink our hips back, taking our hands up. So in a chair pose, what we're trying to do is activate our core. So if you don't feel a lot of activation in your core, you can sink your bum a little further back. And just find a dristi eye gaze right in front of your face. So that'll just keep your head nice and neutral. And what you'll notice as you hold here is that your body will begin to complain. Your mind will begin to get loud. And you just focus on that dristi and you breathe and hold. This is an example of a pose that we're noticing we're able to do more than what our mind tells us we can do. So holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Push your hands to your shins. Ground your hands, step back, high plank. Find that long line of energy from crown to heels. Imagine that my hand was just like a centimeter away from your back heels and just push your heels into my hand. That'll help you find a long, powerful line. On your exhale, knees, chest, and chin to the ground. And inhale to find your baby cobra lifting up. And downward facing dog, pull back. Gaze to the back of your mat. Breathing and arriving, just finding your breath, pushing your hands into the air. Gaze to the front of your mat, step your left and then your right to the front of your mat, rolling up. We're going to practice an alternative version of Sun Salutation B just to make it a little bit easier for everyone. So we're going to step our right foot back to find Warrior One, sorry. So Warrior One, our hips are square to the front of our mat. You can see from the front, this pose looks like this. So my hips are square, straight to the front of the mat. And what we want to do is we want our back heel to be gripping onto the mat into a diagonal line. If that feels really uncomfy, you can come up onto your toes as well. So your hands come up and you want to bend your front knee so your knee stacks over your ankle. And from here, feel your shoulders pull back and arrive into Warrior Two. So what we're doing here is we're finding a powerful stance in our legs. We're activating through the legs and then we can lift our chest up and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hands to the earth. Frame your front foot, step back to high plank, and flow through that same sequence. So knees, chest, and chin to the ground. Inhale, baby cobra, and exhale. Downward facing dog, gaze back. Arriving in downward dog. Breathing here. Now there's 2 options here. You can take your left foot to the sky and step it to the front of the mat for Warrior One, or you can step both feet to the front of the mat and just step your right foot, your other foot back to find your pose, because it can be kind of hard to step to the front of the mat sometimes. So if that's hard, it's totally fine. You can just find your pose by coming to the front of the mat and just stepping your foot back to the back of the mat instead. So just holding in your Warrior One on the other side, bending deeply into your front knee. Because here's the thing about yoga is these poses we're doing, it's not about exactly the way we're doing them. It's about the embodiment and the sensation inside of them. So what you want to do is you just want to notice where your body is in space. Perhaps notice if you can bend your knee a little bit more to stack the knee over the ankle. Feel the power in the pose, breathe into the pose. But the word asana in yoga actually just means a steady and comfortable seat. So we're trying to find body awareness, we're trying to find power in our bodies. So it doesn't matter how you get there really, or exactly what your body looks like or how flexible you are, it doesn't matter. So take your hands to the earth, step back, high plank, and flow through your vinyasa. Knees, chest, and chin. Inhale up, baby cobra, down dog. You probably feel this fiery building of energy into your body now. This is called tapas. And this is another reason why this style of yoga is so good for depression. Is tapas is translated as heat, fire, and determination. So lock your eyes, back of your mat, between your big toes. And this is what I found has been so helpful for me to tune back into my own inner power, my own confidence, and my own ability to help myself through yoga and to just feel better, noticing that I have these tools inside of myself to feel confident. Gaze to the front of your mat, step left and then right, rolling up. We're gonna do that one more time. So really this time, trying to find that breath to movement linking. So sink your hips back, find your hands up, activate through your core muscles, chair pose. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and on your exhale, folding forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Ground the hands, step back, high plank. Flow through your vinyasa flow, so knees, chest, and chin to the ground. Inhale to lift. Vinyasa flow just means linking breath to movement. Downward facing dog, gaze back between your big toes. So take your right foot to the sky this time, three-legged dog, and tuck your right knee towards your nose. So you're gonna arch into your back. And then wherever your right foot lands, it might be a bit before your hands, you can just take your peace sign fingers, grab your big toe, and just place it at the front of your mat. Lower your back heel down and inhale to find warrior one. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Frame the front foot, step back, high plank, knees, chest, and chin to the ground. Inhale, baby cobra, and downward facing dog. Again, we're coming into warrior one on the left side. So take your left foot to the sky, tuck the left knee towards your nose, and step it forward. If it doesn't make it all the way to your hands, take your peace sign finger to your big toe and just guide it to the front of the mat. Lower your back heel down and inhale the hands up. Warrior one on the left side. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Frame the front foot. This time we're just gonna step our back foot to meet our left foot. Rolling up. Hands to heart. We're gonna to waist. Sorry, this time hands to waist. So we're gonna do another part of the Ashtanga sequence. We're gonna take our right foot back to come into this wide position. So now you're using the long side of your mat. So this is one of my favorite part of sequences in the yoga practice, the Ashtanga practice. I'm just shuffling it up a little bit so we can get to it today. So what we're gonna start with is a wide leg forward fold sequence. So now that your body is heated up, you're more able to stretch your body, which is part of why we do it this way. We do the sun salutations first, so our body is warm. And then we're like, wow, I feel great. So I can do some stretching. So you're gonna take your hands up, inhale, exhale, fold. Let your head sink towards the ground. And just feel that nice stretch in your hips. And hold if you can for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hands to your waist. Inhale to lift up. And our next one we're going to do is we're going to take our hands behind our back. We're going to bind. And some people might find this a bit tough, but just do what works for you. You don't have to fully bind, or you can just reach your hands behind you to open your chest. And on your next exhale, just fold and see how open you can get. See where your hands want to go. Just listen to your own body to breathe into that stretch as you pull the fist up and away from your head. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hands to the waist. Inhale, coming all the way up. And we're going to do one more. So this one can be a bit tricky. We're going to take our peace sign fingers to our big toes. You can bend your knees a little bit to grab onto your big toes. If this feels really uncomfy and you don't like it, you can also grab onto the backs of your ankles. And what you're trying to do is activate through your back muscles. So you're pulling into your hamstrings. And we're holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release your toes, take your hands to your waist, inhaling up. So that feels pretty good. So you can open up a little bit, stretching. We're gonna come into our next pose, which is a triangle pose. So we're gonna open our legs wide, and we're gonna take our right toes, and we're gonna point them to the short edge of the mat. So open your arms wide like wings. And what I want you to do is just surf your right hand as far to this right horizon as you can. So I don't want you to go straight down yet. You're just going to the horizon, and then there's going to be a point where your body's like, okay, that's enough, that's my limit. And then you're going to take your right hand down and your left hand up. So you're going to open into your chest to find Trikonasana, triangle pose. So in the Trikonasana, your chest is open and your shoulders and your hands are stacked on top of each other. If your left hand is coming all the way forward like this, that probably means your right hand is too low on your legs. So you want to lift higher, and that's great. You're just trying to find the perfect stretch in your hips and your shoulders. And just hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming up, let's find the other side. Let's take our left toes and point them that way, surfing the other side. Trikonasana, triangle, other way, finding your expression where your stretch needs to be today. And just hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Just notice for the last breath, you can pull your right shoulder behind your back so you can open into your heart. Inhale coming up. Really good. Woo, nice. And we're going to step to the front of our mat. So let's inhale, extended mountain. Exhale, fold. We're going to do a couple more poses and then we'll be ready to slow down. So we're going to step our right foot back to find warrior 1. So we did warrior 1 already. So your right heel is down at the back and you're going to inhale up. We're going to use this warrior 1 to come into warrior 2. So to come into warrior 2, you take this right hand towards the back of your mat, left hand forward, and just bending into your front knee. And what's different about a warrior 2 is your arms are wide and your hips are now open to the long side of your mat. And the drishti in this pose is the middle finger of your left hand. So lock your eyes on the nail on the middle finger of your hand and check down at your front knee. See if you can pull it towards your pinky toe. So opening your chest, breathing here. And from here, we'll come into our side angle pose. So the left arm, left thigh. Take your left arm to your left thigh and take your right hand and pull it straight away from the crown of your head. So you should feel a diagonal line from the top fingers all the way down to your back heel. And just open. And just like in Trikonasana triangle, you can take your top shoulder and like pull it open behind you. So feel a nice pulling from your fingertips to your back heel. And on your next inhale, come up. Warrior 2, gaze to the middle finger of your front hand, and then just switch to the other side. So we're going to point our right toes to the front of the mat here. So just whatever way you weren't going, just turn the other way. And gaze to the middle finger of your other hand, facing the other way. So bending the front knee, stacking it over the ankle. And finding your warrior 2, so squeeze your shoulders together, your hands coming opposite ways. Really opening into the body here. We'll take our right arm to our right thigh, left hand away from the head. Find an openness in your chest for side angle pose. Reach this left hand away from your head. So you're feeling this openness in your chest. And instead of collapsing into your core muscles, see if you can use your core muscles to lift up from the top hand. Really good. Inhale, come back up, warrior 2. And we'll come into the star pose. So really wide here, reaching the hands away. And let's take our hands to the ground. And we're just gonna take a little hop to find a squat. So in a squat, everyone's squat will be different. Some people's squat will be up here, just feeling into your own hips as you bend into your knees. Some people's squats will be down here, but just feel whatever works for you. We're just holding it for a few seconds, feeling into our hips before we lower all the way down into a cross-legged position where we started. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna close our eyes and take our hands to our knees again. So we're gonna take our breath back to that steady rhythm once more. And I just want you to tune inward and notice after you practiced these poses today, how your body feels in comparison to when we started. And I want you to just take a few cycles of breath to just close the eyes and notice your breathing. And as you breathe and as you sit here, just notice how that movement, that activation in your body has changed the way your mind feels and has changed your ability to sit here with your breath, because you've cultivated that mind-body connection. You've noticed your breathing, and now you're existing more in a full-bodied way rather than in a way that's just up in the mind area. You're fully in your body. You can slowly flutter open your eyes, and we'll just take a little twist to the right, left hand to the right knee, right hand behind the back, and right hand to the left knee, left hand behind the back. And if this was a regular yoga class, we would go into Shavasana right now, which is just where you lay down and you just breathe and lay there. But you can do that after this if you like. But I just wanted to do some closing thoughts. And if you'd like my little free gift that I promoted, then stay on the call because I'm going to share it with you guys. But basically, the whole reason that we do these poses in yoga, these active movements, is because that it sets you up to be able to meditate. It sets you up to be able to sit with your breath. And the whole reason we do yoga is to stop the fluctuations of our mind and be present. So in that way, yoga is extremely powerful to get ourselves out of these thought loops through various points of focus, including the actual physical pose we're doing, the breath, tuning into the sound and the sensation of our breath, and also that drishti with our eyes. We're locking our eyes on a single point and we're tuning inward to notice that. And that takes us out of this thinking mind where we're always in the past and we're worried about what we've done. And it takes you into a state where you notice what's actually happening now. And it gives you that awareness of the power you have to change your situation. And this practice is most effective when practiced regularly, consistently. In yoga, there's a term called abhyasa, which means practice. And it explains that abhyasa, or practice, is something with consistency, duration, and commitment. So it just means that you're showing up and you're committed to your practice even when inevitable setbacks will come. Like sometimes you do your practice and it feels kind of bad. And then other days you do your practice and it feels great. But you'll notice like over time, your body is opening, you're more in tune with your body and your mind, and you just feel better. But it only happens over a consistent period of time. And then there's another term that's paired to that term. So there's abhyasa, and then there's vairagya. Vairagya? I'm really bad at pronouncing that one, but it's vairagya. And that one means unattachment to the outcome of your practice. So what we're trying to do here is practice consistently with devotion and duration, but we're not attached to how the practice is going to go for us that day. And that's where the true power is in yoga, where we're learning how to tune inward, quieten our mind. We're learning how to validate our own emotions. We're taking care of our bodies. And we're learning of the true power that we have to help ourselves, which is really something that's been life-changing for me. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm just going to end the recording and then I'll tell you all about what you can claim from me after this. So let me just end recording.